Warning: this podcast contains unfiltered logic, unlicensed sarcasm, and prolonged exposure to American values. Listener discretion is advised. If your idea of fact-checking is skimming headlines from your favorite bubble, if your self-worth depends on your party's wins on social media, or if seeing an American flag makes you feel oppressed, this show might be hazardous to your feelings. Side effects may include questioning your worldview, developing common sense, and remembering that freedom isn't a partisan term. Proceed with caution.
Washington, D.C., our capital, our symbol of democracy, should be a place of stability and safety. Instead, it's been plagued by crime perception, political dysfunction, and endless spin. Enter President Trump, who just federalized the Metro Police, put Attorney General Pam Bondi in charge, and deployed 800 National Guard troops. The left calls it an overreach. The right calls it a rescue mission. And in the middle are everyday Americans wondering if this will finally make their capital city safe. Meanwhile, on the economic front, Trump replaced the Bureau of Labor Statistics chief with a Heritage Foundation economist, E.J. Antoni, promising honest numbers after firing the last guy for delivering a jobs report he didn't trust. Today, we break down both moves, what they mean, and why they're bigger than the headlines make them seem. Back at the table, we've got Brian, our MAGA optimist who could give a pep talk to a hurricane and have it moving in the right direction. Then there's Rachel, our independent voice and a resident reality check, who can tell you exactly where your argument fell apart without raising her voice. And finally, Daniel, our conspiracy hunter who lives knee-deep in declassified documents and research rabbit holes that make you question whether he ever actually sleeps. Together, they're the perfect mix of passion, perspective, and just enough roasting to keep politicians sweating. This episode is brought to you by the Caleb Rourke Thriller series, The Covenant Protocol, and The Prophet Directive. These are gritty, relevant, high-stakes thrillers that mix political intrigue with covert action, written for readers who like their fiction bold and unfiltered. Both are available now on Amazon. Grab them before the bureaucracy figures out how to ban them. Our merch store's always open, and it's more reliable than half the agencies in D.C. grab Data and Dissonance coffee blends, bumper stickers like, "I identify as non-binary," and hoodies warmer than a patriotic campfire. Every purchase supports the show and my family, so check it out at dataanddissonance.printify.me. Washington, D.C. is claiming crime is down. Violent crime down 26%, assaults with weapons down 20%, homicides down 12%. And yet, President Trump looked at those stats, shrugged, and said, "Cool story. Send in the troops." The Metro Police are now under federal control. Attorney General Pam Bondi is calling the shots, and 800 National Guard troops are patrolling the Capitol. The left says it's an authoritarian stunt. The right says it's finally someone doing their job. But here's the thing. Statistics don't mean squat if people still feel unsafe. If you can't walk your own streets without glancing over your shoulder, those numbers are just ink on paper. This isn't just about law enforcement. It's about who gets to set the tone for the nation's capital. All right, let's jump right into this one. Crime stats say one thing, but the boots on the ground tell another. Brian, I'll start with you. What's your read on Trump taking over the Metro Police and putting Pam Bondi in charge?
This is classic Trump. Stop waiting for permission, stop waiting for another useless committee meeting, and actually do something. Crime may be down on paper, but D.C. is still a city where people avoid certain neighborhoods after dark. The fact that left-wing leaders are more worried about overreach than the safety of the people tells you everything. This isn't an optics stunt, it's a statement. And if the locals feel safer seeing National Guard on the streets, then mission accomplished. People forget, leadership is about action, not press releases.
Rachel, you've always got that measured take. Numbers say crime is down, but the president still sent in the troops. How does that land with you?
Crime stats can be tricky. They might be down compared to last year, but what does that really mean if the baseline was already bad? I get why some locals might be nervous about the optics of federal control. Nobody likes feeling like they're under occupation in their own neighborhood. But I also know that if your city leaders have failed for years and the feds step in and actually reduce crime, people are going to remember that. The real test will be whether this is a short-term band-aid or the start of a permanent change in how DC operates.
Daniel, I know you're already connecting dots on this one. What's the bigger play here?
People need to understand, this isn't just about crime in DC. This is Trump sending a loud message to every blue-run city in America. If you can't handle your own streets, the feds will. Chicago, New York, LA, you're on notice. The stats going down this year is almost irrelevant. This is about taking control and showing who's in charge. And let's not kid ourselves. Crime numbers can be massaged. What can't be spun is who controls the streets when the boots are on the ground. Right now, that answer is Trump.
After a messy jobs report last month, Trump wasted no time firing the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner and replacing him with E.J. Antoni from the Heritage Foundation. Trump says this is about getting honest and accurate numbers. Critics say it's about shaping the narrative to match his policies. But here's the reality. Jobs numbers aren't just statistics for economists to debate. They influence the stock market, interest rates, even global trade deals. Whoever controls the BLS doesn't just track the economy, they help define it. All right, switching gears. The Bureau of Labor Statistics just got a new boss. E.J. Antoni from Heritage is now running the show. Brian, is this the kind of change the economy needs, or is it just swapping one set of biases for another?
This is a win. The BLS has been playing accounting games for decades, counting part-time jobs as full-time, redefining unemployment, hiding inflation behind jargon. We finally have someone in there who understands how to keep the data honest. And let's be clear, when the economy's doing well, the left will still try to spin the numbers negative. Having a guy like Antoni at the helm means we get the facts without the partisan varnish. If that makes the usual suspects in the media mad, good.
Rachel, you're all about credibility. What's your take on this move?
I'm all for transparency, but here's the thing. When you put a Heritage Foundation economist in that role, it's going to raise questions about political influence. People need to trust jobs data no matter who's in office. If the numbers improve, they should be believable because they're real, not because they're politically convenient. The challenge here will be proving that this appointment is about accuracy, not messaging. That's the only way the BLS can maintain credibility.
Daniel, I can see the smirk. Go ahead and give us the 30,000-foot view.
This is bigger than fixing jobs data. The BLS influences markets, and markets influence politics. If you can control the economic narrative, you control public sentiment. This is a strategic high ground in the information war. And let's not pretend past administrations haven't used these numbers to spin a story. Trump's move is just making it obvious, and that transparency, even if it rattles some cages, might be exactly what the country needs.
Today's Patriot Minute is dedicated to the Wounded Warrior Project. Since 2003, they've been serving veterans who came home from the post-9/11 wars with injuries, both visible and invisible. They provide mental health counseling, career training, adaptive sports programs, and crucial support for families. Too often, bureaucracy leaves our heroes waiting months or years for help. Wounded Warrior steps in where red tape leaves off. If you've ever wondered how you can make a real difference for those who've sacrificed for our freedoms, go to woundedwarriorproject.org. Give, volunteer, or simply share their mission, because a grateful nation should never leave its warriors behind. All right, final lap of the show. Brian, your takeaway from today's topics?
Trump's actions this week are exactly why his supporters trust him. He doesn't sit around and wait for permission. You can debate whether federalizing the DC police is the right move, but you can't debate that it's a move, and that matters. It tells people who've been dealing with fear in their own neighborhoods that their safety is being prioritized over political optics. Same thing with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He saw leadership he didn't trust, he removed them, and replaced them with someone he believes will tell the truth about the economy. That's not timid leadership. That's decisive leadership. And in a time when most politicians are more worried about how they look on camera than how they perform in office, that kind of decisiveness is refreshing. The left will scream overreach. But I think Americans are tired of inaction disguised as process. They'd rather have someone act and be wrong than sit on their hands while problems get worse.
Rachel, what's your closer?
I think both moves, the DC federalization and the BLS appointment, have the potential to be impactful, but they're also the kind of decisions that will define Trump's legacy in his second term. If the National Guard presence in DC makes people feel safer and crime truly drops, it'll be remembered as a bold, effective intervention. But if it backfires, if tensions escalate, or if residents feel like they've been treated as pawns in a political stunt, it could sour public opinion in a big way. Same thing with the BLS. Transparency is great, but when you bring in someone from an openly ideological think tank, you have to work twice as hard to prove the data is impartial. If Antoni delivers accurate, unvarnished numbers, people will trust them regardless of party affiliation. If not, it'll be seen as just another example of politics overtaking objectivity. The line between bold leadership and overreach is thin, and this week's moves put Trump right on that line.
Daniel, bring us home.
What I see here is a chess game. Two moves that seem separate, but actually tie into a bigger strategy. By federalizing DC policing, Trump asserts control over the nation's capital, sends a warning to other cities, and positions himself as the ultimate problem solver when local leadership fails. By taking over the BLS, he gains influence over how the economy is perceived, because let's be honest, perception often matters as much as reality when it comes to the markets and public sentiment. These aren't just policy moves, they're power moves. The left will try to spin them as dangerous or authoritarian, but they'll have a hard time doing that if crime drops and the economy shows real, verifiable gains. And that's the point. Trump is building a narrative where he's the only one willing to grab the wheel and steer the country out of the ditch. And if the numbers and the headlines start lining up with that story, the opposition won't just be out of arguments, they'll be out of plays.
And here's where I land. These moves are about leverage. In DC, Trump is saying that no matter what the city's leadership does or fails to do, the federal government can and will step in if the capital isn't secure. That sends a message far beyond the Beltway to every major city that's let crime spiral out of control. In the economy, the BLS shift is about making sure the scoreboard matches the game that's actually being played, not the one being narrated by pundits with an agenda. You can agree with the methods or not, but here's the truth. Power respects action. The people who change the world aren't the ones asking, is this going to upset someone? They're the ones asking, will this solve the problem? Trump's betting big that Americans will reward results over politeness, and honestly, history tends to agree with that. Remember to speak truth, stir thought,